You are listening to the Hiking Radio Network, where we talk the walk with shows by hikers about hikers for everybody.
This is the Hammock Hangers Podcast, where we hang out and talk about everything from hammocks and hammock camping to the group hangs from around the country. Welcome back to another episode of the Hammock Hangers Podcast. I am your host, Paul Collins, or Skunk Ape. This week on the podcast, we have a fellow Appalachian Trail thru hiker, Anthony Kaplon, that completed the trail using a hammock the whole way. Anthony done his thru hike during the span of 2019 and 2020. He done the first half southbound at the end of 2019 season from Harper's Ferry to Springer Mountain, and then went back in the beginning of 2020 heading northbound from Harper's Ferry to finish up at Katahdin. Anthony is also an admin for the Hammock Backpackers group on Facebook. Let's get on with the show so we can hear more from Anthony on how he got into hammock camping and also about his thru hike journey. All right, everybody, welcome back. I am here with our guest this week, Anthony Kaplon. How you doing this week, Anthony?
I'm doing great, Paul. How you doing?
No, not too bad, not too bad. So, there's several things that we're going to talk about during the episode. But first, I want to, start off with your backpacking and camping history. When did you first get started into backpacking and camping in general?
So it was probably 6 years ago. I got into hiking because of actually kind of strangely through remote control cars, kind of. So they're like 4x4 10th scale trucks, and basically you take them out and you hike. So I decided one day that I didn't need the truck and I'd just hike. And then I decided, well, if I want to hike more in a weekend, I should stay out here in the woods. And so it kind of snowballed from there. I got the bug pretty quick, and I dug into gear and all sorts of research, and just generally jumped in and basically forgot about bringing the trucks because it's a lot slower. Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. Well, at least the RC cars got you into the hiking and everything. That's a plus.
Yeah.
So, when you first started hiking and everything, did you go straight into hammocks, or did you start off with a tent? Or I know you just said that you've done a lot of research and all that on the gear and everything. So,
well, so it actually was kind of interesting. At the time, I had a coworker who was kind of into hiking, and I told him that I was getting into it, and he's like, dude, just take my Eno one day. I'm telling you, you're going to like it. Just have a lay in it, have a nap. And I kind of blew it off like, man, that just doesn't seem like I'd be comfortable, or I kind of just blew it off. And then he was like, one day he'd put it in my car, and I went to the trailhead, and there it was. And it was just, a little Eno in the sack. So I put it in there in my little day pack, and I hiked off into the woods, and I put that Eno up, and I laid down, and I decided right then and there that if I was going to backpack, it would probably be with a hammock. Like, I slept pretty good, and I'm a pretty short guy, so I'm like 5'8". Gotcha. So an Eno kind of works on a diagonal, the double nest, but not really. But so from there, it kind of snowballed into just the whole black hole on the internet, hammock forums and Shug's videos. That was a great podcast that you did there. And
I love Shug. I love Shug.
A gold mine right there, a true legend of the hammock community.
Yes, he is.
So from there, it just snowballed, and I found out quickly that it was very personal. Like, you could personalize the hammock setup to how you kind of wanted to do it, and that drew me in. I'm kind of into tinkering with things, and so that definitely was like, all right, cool. I can figure this out.
Right. So, do you do any DIY then?
I don't, but I'm totally willing to. So I had a buddy that made me a pack, and he was like, dude, you can sew stuff up. It's not that hard, especially if you start with like stuff sacks. I did some research. And I've decided recently that the newer materials just seem too hard to work with. I'd have to start with some sil nylon and stuff, and then I'd have to test it out, and then my pack gets heavier. It becomes a rolling, another one of those gear black hole. But those are good to fall into sometimes.
Gotcha. All right. So you said you started off with the Eno, which was your buddies, and then done all your research and all that. What type of setup did you end up with? What's your go-to setup
What I
that you
wound
use
up
most?
with was
Yeah.
a Hennessy setup
Okay.
with so they had a sale at the time. It came with the tarp, but it didn't come with the small triangular diamond guy. It
Okay.
came with the like the asymmetrical kind of rectangle. I forgot what they called it, but it had a flat side to it. And I started with that, and I actually still prefer the Hennessy hammock.
Okay.
I have replaced the suspension, so I just have amp steel loops
Gotcha.
on a Hennessy Hyperlight, and that's still actually my go-to. And that's interesting because everyone always says 11-foot hammock, right? 11-foot
Right.
hammock, and the Hennessy, I don't think it's 10 feet. I think it's 10 and a half feet. I'd have to look again,
Okay.
but it's definitely not 11-foot hammock. And me being short, I find when I'm in an 11-foot hammock, my ridge line's like 10 feet away, and it just feels like it swallows me up.
Right.
Um, and so I don't know. I just keep going back to the Hennessy. Like I've got a monolight from Dutch that's cool in the summer. It's an interesting hammock. I've got a Dream Hammock Sparrow. It's in what was it, the 1-2 Robic or whatever they're calling that now.
Yep.
I like how those materials are and stuff, but I have to go back and figure out if I want to do a 10 and a half or a 10. And I don't know what it is about that Hennessy, man. Especially after I replaced the suspension and got rid of the fixed lines on the hammock, which is, I don't know if you're familiar with how they come from the factory, but it's not an ideal setup in my opinion.
Right. Kind of like the Clarks. When before Dutch bought Clark out, when Clark was their own company, they came with ropes, and so that was
Yeah,
always one of the first things that got changed. By myself and pretty much by anybody that I ever talked to.
hmm
But yeah, so yeah, that's pretty neat. I mean, it's one of those things that when you find one that works for you, it don't matter the length really. I mean, I've slept in I've got some Clarks, which I mean, I think the Clark is only like 9 foot, nine and a half foot,
Yeah.
but it don't lay like one. But I've also got, R&R. I got Dutchware Chameleons. I've got, Walhalla hammocks. Simply like, I've got a slew of hammocks. And I even actually just got some one wind hammocks, which there's some cheaper hammocks.
Yep.
But they're actually very comfortable.
Yeah, yeah.
They're not.
Yeah, it's interesting when you find stuff like that, because it's like certain hammocks just lay different. Like
Yeah.
if it's the cuts, the material, it could even be the bug net. Like if you've ever had a netless, they kind of lay different.
Yeah.
I see it behind you. What am I looking at?
Yeah. That's the one behind me. That's actually a one wind.
That looks good.
And it has like the Franke style netting on that.
Yep.
But there's I also have a 12-foot one wind that's zippered.
Okay.
As well. So which that one's very comfortable. A lot of room in it.
Yeah.
But so all right now I know that you through hiked the Appalachian Trail as well. I'm class of 2012 myself. And you done it the whole way in a hammock as well, correct?
Yeah, I had a hammock on me the entire trail. My hike was actually kind of interesting. It wound up as kind of a backwards flip flop. Congrats on finishing 2012. I mean, his little trails, I'm sure, very different back then. That was something that I always thought about is how.
Yeah, because you done it in what 19 and 20.
19 and 20, yeah. So the end of 19 into the summer of 20. So I did Harper's Ferry South in the fall of 2019, and then Harper's Ferry North in the summer of 2020.
Okay, so the last part of yours, you were in the COVID state.
Yeah.
Okay. So I bet yours was pretty interesting.
Yeah. So it was because I was on trail before, like 2019 in the fall, right before it, and then I had to make a decision and wait. I had planned on leaving in April of 2020. But then with
Okay.
COVID, I delayed till May, and it was like, well, should I hike? Everyone says the trail's closed, and then I'm following people on Instagram and all the forums and the Facebook groups that got crazy, and
Right.
I just knew people were out there hiking, and I knew that the towns were probably going to stay open. And so the other factor there was I live in New Jersey.
Okay.
So leaving from Harper's Ferry meant I was 3 weeks or less from home just by
Right.
foot. So if it didn't work out, if I wasn't feeling it, if it was a struggle, then I could just go home. So
Gotcha.
yeah, but that was quite an interesting. It wasn't that different, to be honest. I mean, you couldn't sit at a bar during
Right.
2020,
Okay.
but I mean, we got rides, we got trail magic, we had
Okay.
hostels when we needed them, and
See, I saw a lot of, I mean, I'm, part of a lot of those different groups on Facebook and stuff. And I saw a
Mhm.
lot of people, saying that a lot of the towns were, basically rude to them and stuff like that. So, but I also know that there's a lot of people, in the groups and stuff like that, you got people in there that aren't real hikers and stuff like that always want to try and start stuff too. So
yeah,
wasn't sure
it
what
was
the
weird.
truth was and what it wasn't.
It was definitely a weird time. The fear mongering that tends to happen
Right.
on the trail, you just extend that into COVID and everything that comes with it, and that's basically what you get.
Gotcha. So what made you decide to do a flip flop instead of just the traditional Nobo or Sobo?
So I had actually planned to go north in March of 2020, and
Okay.
I got laid off in August of 2019.
Okay.
And at that point, I had decided that why not go hike whatever I can when I can with the time that I've got now. And so that put me like 30 days later, September 7th or 8th, I was on trail going south from Harper's Ferry because
Okay.
I kind of needed to just run away from winter.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. That's how I ended up on the trail is I ended up getting laid off and had money saved up. So
Mm-hmm.
it actually worked out pretty good.
Yeah. So like I said, I was planning for a March 2020 Nobo.
Right.
So gear and funds were kind of already there to be able to do half the trail.
Gotcha.
So
did you have any issues with setting up your hammock any places along the trail when you were doing your hike, or
I mean, it
not
gets
really,
tough. It gets tough in the whites, I'd say, would be
Right.
like the toughest. The other thing you can't do, obviously, is like set up with your friends at Max Patch. They're the condensation's rolling in,
Right.
and there's going to be dew, but you're just going to lay there on. Well, so I actually wound up carrying a 3/4 length Z light on the trail,
Okay.
as well as my hammock. So I could do stuff like that. I could lay on the grass and cowboy camp if I want. I could hole up in a shelter very uncomfortably, obviously, on the wood floor
Right.
with the Z light. But I wound up picking that up reluctantly, heading south. And then when I left going north, I didn't bring it. I was like, I'm not going to need it. I don't need it. And then I wound up grabbing it when I passed by home anyway.
Gotcha. All right, that's pretty awesome. What are some of the spots that I guess the best way to put it would be like your favorite spots where you hung your hammocks?
My favorite spot to hang was probably in the 100-mile wilderness. I don't remember which lake or pond or whatever they called them. It's got the beach, and like basically a trail goes right next to it. It's big
Okay.
sandy beach, and it was basically felt like a tropical beach if you looked down with the sand, but then you looked up and you were in the 100-mile wilderness with this
Right.
beautiful lake. Pretty sure that was one of my favorite hangs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you ever, because I know whenever I done mine, I got creative sometimes with where I hung. I mean, so I hung from like the bottom of some of the fire towers sometimes, stuff like that. Did you do any of that, or?
Yeah. So like, actually, I'm familiar with the shelter. Basically, I can take one look at a shelter from the outside and usually figure out if my hammock's going to work inside. And so in 2020, you could get away most of the time with, late in the day, no one's in the shelter.
Sure.
You know who you're around because there's the trail bubble wasn't really there. So
Right.
you could pretty much guarantee who was going to be in the shelter. And from the outside, I could figure out if I could string it up long ways and not take up enough space. that
Gotcha.
anyone would mind, and that worked out a few times.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Um, how long did it take you to finish the trail in
Uh,
all?
well, it was about 10 weeks going south.
Okay.
No, 9 weeks going south. 9 weeks of hiking going south, and 10 weeks of hiking going north.
Okay.
So it was almost 5 months, I guess.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And I'm assuming that with the year and everything, there was no, especially in 2020, I know there wasn't the trail days or anything.
No. So
Did
that
you?
was like, so in 2019 we wound up at was it Devil's Backbone? Yeah, we wound up at a music festival at Devil's
Okay.
Backbone, and there
Gotcha.
was no such thing on your mind in 2020.
Right.
So
Right. Yeah, I was going to ask you if you made it in 2019 to trail days or not. Have you been to trail days?
I haven't. I almost went this year, but we had a baby, so
Gotcha.
yeah.
Okay. I ended up doubling back and going, so
Ooh, that's
it is
cool.
pretty neat to go to. I would love to go up to it again at some point.
Yeah, I mean the trail community is special, right? Like to just
Yes.
immerse yourself in it in a setting like as cool as Damascus is. It's a cool
Right.
thing.
Right. So, out of your trail family, were there any of them that got kind of jealous or was interested in your hammock?
Um,
Any of them that were intense?
no, nobody I could really convince to convert.
Really? Okay.
But I did hike with an awesome girl going south. Her name was Little Engine, and her setup was definitely on the lower end, but she made it work so well for her. And that was great to hike with her. And then hiking northbound, I ran into a guy that I'd actually ran into when I was going south. His name was Learning Curve, and he's a hammock guy and really into making gear now. And so I found my own little hammock community,
Okay.
out there. But everyone I hiked with that hiked in tents, for the most part, liked their tents.
Did they? Okay.
I mean, so I've got a duplex now, and I got that mainly for me and my wife because I found out that when I go with her, I'm setting up and taking down 2 hammocks.
Right.
So, I mean, I got the spreader bar, right, and all that, but I don't have a big enough Kelty tarp, one of those, what is Kelty, whatever, the 16?
Yeah, I think so. Something like
The,
that.
the
It's either 16 or 18. I know it's
one of those
huge.
big boys, or Dutch makes a double or one of those, but she
Yep.
she likes to just be in the tent with me,
Okay.
so I sleep. I won't. I My pack could be lighter. I'm a pretty strict gram weenie, and I know my pack could be lighter with that duplex and a light pad, but
Right.
I will not give up the comfort because I sleep better in my hammock in the woods than in my mattress. It's pretty consistent, and
Exactly. Well,
I
that's why you see the one behind me.
right.
Because I sleep.
Yeah, I'm jealous. I'm jealous.
I sleep better in it than I do in my own bed.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
anytime I get to sleep in a hammock, I do. So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times
Mm-hmm.
I'll come in here and I'm in here, sleeping in my hammock, and my wife is in our master bedroom, she's back in bed, which she don't mind because
Right.
then she gets to sprawl out and all that on the bed. But
Yep.
so
Yep.
all right. Now you are also a moderator for a group on Facebook, correct?
Yes. Yes. So my buddy Dave Jolly, he's a great guy. He started a Meetup group actually. The group started on Meetup,
Okay.
and Meetup's a pretty good platform. But then it went pay, like basically pay to play type of platform, and we felt like it wasn't worth the value. Like we could just do what we needed to do on Facebook, and so we
Right.
transferred the group to Facebook, and that comes with its ups and downs. Facebook's obviously a much larger, more accessible, in-your-face platform to most people than Meetup is. So that leads to larger numbers and more people seeing the content and adding to the content and questions. And so I think overall it's been a good thing for us to move to Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now with Meetup is more localized too, right?
Yes. So we had basically it covered basically the tri-state. We had some people from a little further out, but
Okay. Now
basically
what state are you from?
I'm in New Jersey.
Okay. Oh, that's
So
right. You did say that
yeah,
earlier.
so New
That's
York,
right.
Connecticut, and so this area is pretty cool actually.
Okay.
So for a hiking group, we've got the Catskills, the Adirondacks, pretty good access to get up to like New Hampshire. It's only like 5 hours ish, and then
Okay.
the AT and stuff locally and state parks all over the place. So we've got a lot of options for longer, harder trips and shorter, easier type of hang out and don't do much trips.
Gotcha.
And so
Okay.
it's a good area for us.
All right. I gotcha. So how long have you been a moderator um, of that group? Pretty
Uh,
much since it started, or
Not really since it started, but once I showed up to a bunch of the trips, I hung out with Dave, and he had asked me, "Hey, do you want to plan one of these trips? I'll let you plan some trips," and basically made me a moderator of the meetup group, and I had organized some trips and led some smaller trips. But so like our group is very mixed and always has been between people who like we don't actually it's hammock backpackers, but if you come in a tent, no one's going to stop you, like.
right, right.
And we've got people who like to do like the carry heavier and hike shorter, and we've got people that'll come out there and crush 25 miles if we want to. So it's a
Gotcha.
diverse set of people who plan the trips, so the trips wind
Okay.
up being diverse.
And your Facebook group is hammock backpacking. Is
Yep,
that correct?
that's it.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
I'm gonna put the link to that in the show notes.
Yeah, absolutely. You
So
guys all come on over and join the party. It's
well, I know
it's informative.
I know me and a couple of my buddies. We do the hang con down here
Yep.
in Florida,
Yep.
but we try and get to several of the different other hangs and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely keep a lookout and
Yeah, jump in, man. We've got literally, I'd say at least once a month, even through the winter, somebody's posting
okay.
a trip. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, definitely, keep an eye out on that. And, whenever we're able to make it up, we'll come up and join y'all.
Yeah, that'd be great, man.
So now you yourself have a YouTube,
Yeah, yeah, a little
correct?
channel. Yeah.
Okay. And I've looked at that, and I see a lot of that is like your AT hike and all that. So I'll be adding that link in there as
Cool. Yeah.
well.
YouTube's a fickle beast, and if you put the time and effort into it, you can do some cool stuff and get some cool information out there and build a community. But
Right.
I realized pretty quickly that it's hard to create standout content in the hiking
Yes.
community. And at the end of the day, I think it's easiest to just boil it down to the critical information people need to get out there and enjoy the woods, especially in a hammock, and
Right.
because there's so much to wade through, which is a good thing and a bad thing, and it's hard. But I've realized over time that the YouTube is mainly for me. I enjoy looking back on like what was in my pack when I hiked in Virginia, you know. So it's fun, and it's been tough now with the baby and work. It's busy, but eventually
Right.
I'll make some more content. The winter content's fun because our area is pretty crowded. Most of the places you're going to go,
Okay.
and if you go out there in the winter, you've got all of these places that are usually jam packed full of people completely to yourself. So
Gotcha.
filming gets a lot easier.
Yeah, we don't have that down here in Florida.
Yeah, yeah. Winter clears everybody out. So we'll have in the summer 1,000 people walking some of the popular trailheads. Like
Right.
Stairway to Heaven, if you remember that in New
Okay.
Jersey. Yeah,
Yep.
that's one of the most popular hikes in the state. And you go there on a summer weekend and it's jam packed. But if you go in the winter, you got it all to yourself.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. All right. Well, all right. So we'll be closing out here in just a minute. So what I like to do, I like to ask, some of my guests every once in a while, what are your top 3 tips that you would give somebody new that's just starting out into hammock camping?
Top 3 tips. The first tip would be 100% do as much research as you can. It's such a willing community if you dig. Like you're gonna find out how all the suspensions work if you do the research. You're gonna find out about all the materials if you do the research. You're gonna find out about what is the 82% rule on the Ridgeline or whatever it is, right? Like
Right.
it's all there if you dig in. So that would be tip number one. The second thing I would say would be don't be afraid to try new stuff. And that's kind of difficult because it's kind of hard to find other people, right, that have hammock gear sometimes. Like you're not just going to have, access to see and feel and touch or experience another way to do something or another
Right.
material or another tarp cut or whatever it is. And so that's another benefit of the group, right, is you can fondle other people's gear a bit and figure out, oh, maybe I'll try some of that. But definitely don't be afraid to try new stuff, but do it in a safe, do it on a trip where the car is 5 miles away and the weather's good.
Right.
And then my third tip would be to just go out and enjoy it. Like don't think too much about it. Like as opposite as that is from like tip number one, like when you go out there and do it, like let it happen. And so along with those other first two is like, don't let the first time you set up your tarp be when you go backpacking. Like,
right.
You kind of want to get familiar with the ins and outs of your kit, specifically with a hammock and a tarp, because like hammock camping is tarp camping, right? Like that's your shelter. So you might want to get comfortable with, tying and untying those knots when your hands are wet, and like maybe put yourself in some bad situations, like I was saying, close to the car in a safe manner where you can experience what it's like to deal with those situations.
Okay. I like those. So, all right. Well, I appreciate you taking the time and coming on and chatting with me some. And
yeah, thanks. I really appreciate the chance to come on and talk. I love the community that hammocking really has evolved into over the past 5 years. There's the information so accessible. People are usually pretty nice and willing. The internet is the internet, right? But for the most part, most of these groups are pretty friendly and pretty willing to help.
Yeah. Going to the groups and stuff. Yeah, it's like a big family reunion.
Yep.
I mean, like I said, on one of the episodes a couple of weeks ago when AJ and I was talking, I'm like I'm a major introvert.
Mm-hmm.
But yet going to the group hangs and stuff like that, I'm basically an extrovert at the groups, but any other time an introvert. So
yeah, you know what? I think the woods also plays into that, right?
I think it does too.
I think I commented to my wife a few weeks ago. We had the baby out, and it's just like the feeling I get in the woods, especially on the AT. I mean, I don't know, it's pretty special to me, but
yes,
like just being out in the woods and hiking and just enjoying it. There's a pretty specific mental state that I've started to notice, and it happens faster and faster the more you get into it. I find that, like that time reset, that nature time reset you get on a backpacking trip, it comes faster and faster the more you do it. So like those weekend trips, I'm basically a weekend warrior besides that AT hike,
Gotcha.
So like the ability to quickly fall into the woods routine I've found over time is just it's beneficial to my mental health.
Yeah. Oh, me as well. I mean, there's times that my wife, she looks at me and she'd be like, "Paul, go to the woods.
Yep.
Just go."
Yep.
So, because she knows that whenever I go out and I come back, I'm more de-stressed.
Yeah, we were just in the Catskills last weekend on a little group trip. It was a pretty short hike up to the top of what's called Overlook Mountains, very popular hike. Fire tower up there, beautiful view of some of the bigger, higher peaks. Slide Mountain's got like 8 inches of snow on it in the distance.
Oh, wow.
Super windy and cold, right? And then we hiked down to the bottom of the ridge, and that's it's called Echo Lake. Nice little campsite, pretty short trip, big fire, right? And then we wake up, a little sunny. It's long night in the winter.
Right.
And wake up, it's a little sunny, and all of a sudden it's snowing sideways, snow squall. But it was 16 degrees and it was snowy, and there's some slush, but at the end of the day, when I came home, I was in a great mood. And the whole time I was out there, you do what you got to do to stay warm in the winter, and you enjoy it it's just different,
Yeah.
it's getting in the woods will change your mental state for the better. And so
Yeah.
I don't let the winter stop me too much.
So do you like winter camping better or more or about the same or?
Well, just like the hammock versus tent thing, winter versus summer has its, there's
Okay.
pluses and minuses to it. So from a weekend warrior perspective, the daylight in the summer is pretty important if you want to crush big miles.
Right.
In the winter, the conditions typically don't allow for bigger mile days anyway, so the daylight might not be a factor. But the shoulder season tends to be my favorite time. Fall tends to be my favorite time,
Okay.
typically around here. I don't like sweating and I don't like bugs. Humidity, as you know, down there is
Yeah.
I can't deal with it well. It slows me down, and bugs are annoying. So the winter's got its advantages, but camping in the
Gotcha.
snow is mentally draining. Even for a weekend, if you're gonna go like hang your hammock in the snow, like
Right.
just the fact that there is I'm a gram weenie, man. I don't want to bring a camp chair, but I'm starting to lean on that I might be taking one in the snow, because just the fact that there is nowhere out there that doesn't have snow on it, it
Makes sense.
it wears on you. But in the
I
winter, the
bet.
other thing you do is shelter trips. So even if you're going to hang your hammock in the snow, in a snowy setting, go to a shelter. Now you've got like 10 square feet of not snowy space that will be your savior. So you can
Gotcha.
change, and it just gets a little harder in the snow, particularly when there's snow, not even just the cold temps, but you learn to deal with it, and you learn to make it work for you sometimes, and it's a whole other learning curve.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to make it up one winter.
Yeah, come on up, man.
Try it out.
You'd be surprised how little you actually need, depending on the type of trip you're going to do. So, like, obviously, you need some warmer quilts.
Sure.
But if you're just going to hike all day, eat dinner, and go to sleep, you don't really need much extra compared to a summer kit. Maybe an extra layer, maybe a puffy. This weekend, I was glad I wore my waterproof trail runners.
Gotcha.
So like, yeah, some things change a little bit in the winter or the shoulder season when the temperatures start. The worst time of year, the most dangerous time of year is obviously when it's like shoulder season. It's like 36 degrees and raining. That's
Right.
that's the hardest stuff to deal with. And so if you put it in that perspective, the winter's pretty learnable.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, like I said earlier, I appreciate you coming on and chatting with me.
Absolutely.
And, I'm going to put all the links to like your YouTube and Instagram and the Facebook group in the show notes. And I'm definitely going to keep an eye on all y'all's different hangs and see when I can get up that way and hang out with y'all some up there.
Awesome, man. Yeah, we would love to have you up here, show you what's going on up here. I mean, obviously, you hike through New Jersey's pretty cool section, but we've got some other, like the Catskills. We've got some stuff we can do. The Adirondacks. There's some good places to go hang a hammock. So,
all right. Well, I will definitely be on the lookout for some of those hangs then, and give you a holler.
Awesome. Thanks, Paul. I really appreciate it. This was fun.
All right. I appreciate it, and I will talk to you later.
All right. Take it easy, man.
All right. Bye. Thanks, Anthony. It was great having you on the show to chat with me some about the two things I love the most, hammocks and the Appalachian Trail. I'll definitely be keeping an eye out in the Hammock Backpackers group on Facebook to see when some of the group hangs are up your way. And I will for sure find the time to make it up that way to hang out with you all. I will be putting all of the links to Anthony's social media sites in the show notes, so make sure to check them out. Make sure to watch and subscribe to his YouTube channel as well. Don't forget to check out all of the other podcast shows that are on the Hiking Radio Network as well. There is Mighty Blue on the Appalachian Trail, the Jester Section Hiker Podcast, the Trail Dames Podcast, and Hiking Unfiltered. And if you like what we are doing here on the Hiking Radio Network and you want to see our shows continue, please consider supporting us with either a one-off or monthly donation. You will find the donate button on each of the Hiking Radio Network pages at hikingradionetwork.com. Also, Don't forget to leave a review and share the show on your social media to help the show grow. Until next week, happy hanging, everyone.